today I want to look at your pièce de résistance, your book on global institutions.
Yeah, that's my most recent book with the title How Global Institutions Rule the World. And of course, the point of view is Washington, right?
Which you self-describe as the capital of the world.
Yeah, because you can see the world from here, and there are so the global institutions like the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund are here. I was very interested in the group of 8 and group of 20,
okay.
Because I had the occasion to meet a few times the President Obama's Sherpas. You know, the Sherpas are the porters in the Himalaya who help the way to ascend to the summit.
Okay.
And then here are the people who prepare the summit meetings of the chief of state or government from the group of 8 or group of 7 now, because Russia probably is not going to be back again, which is in principle the 8 or 7 greatest democracies, and then a second circle is the group of 20 with the 20 biggest economies of the world, including a few dictatorships in this case.
And so it sounds like to me it's kind of like a world government.
Yeah, actually, I think the group of 7 right now is the closest thing to a world government that has never ever existed. Because apparently they meet only once in a while, but in addition to the summits, there are a lot of regular meetings, first of the Sherpas, but also the ministers of finances, of foreign affairs, the trade, labor, agriculture, everything. So it's a permanent network among the big countries to coordinate their policies. And they have their own financial board. So it seems that they don't have an administrative apparatus, but actually they implement their decisions first through the states, also through the European Union and other regional organizations. But what was most amazing to me was that the heads of the United Nations, of the World Bank, of the IMF, the World Trade Organization, etc., attend every meeting, and basically they listen, and then further on they enforce and implement the decisions that the group of 7, 8 had done.
That's what I was going to ask. If you have these top 8 and 20 democracies, advanced economies coming together to regulate world affairs, what's the role of the IMF and the World Bank?
Yeah, but no, they talk about everything. I made a question to Mike Froman, who was at the beginning, the Obama Sherpa. Some other people made similar questions about the agenda, because this group was created initially to deal with financial crisis. Okay? And then, but gradually it expanded to deal with almost everything, including security, conflicts in the Middle East, climate change, energy, etc. And so the question was, so what's the agenda? There's a boundary for your agenda? And this guy literally said, every domestic or every country issue can become a global issue that we will address. So there is no boundary. Everything in the world can be addressed by the group of 7, which is actually in practice the closest thing to a world government.
So do some countries carry more weight than others? For example, you have in the U.S. Security Council, the votes are proportional to how much money you give. But for example, in this instance, I guess the direct correlation would be veto power. Does the U.S.
In the Security Council, you know that there are 5 powers with veto, but in the World Bank and the IMF is a system of weighted votes, because the level of conflict of interest among the countries is higher than in other issues, but not as high as in Security Council of the United Nations, which is about war and peace, which is the most conflict issue. And then weighted votes means that every country is given a number of votes more or less in proportion to their size in terms of population, or their wealth, or their contribution to the organization. Or sometimes in other organizations of the interest of the country in the issue that they have at hand. And then the US in the World Bank and the IMF has about 16–17% of votes. And some decisions have to be made by 85% of votes, which means that the US can have veto, But this is a legend actually, because this is only for very important decisions, such as new members, for instance, and now almost every country in the world is a member, so there's no problem about it. Or especially to expand the financial resources of the organization, these kind of big things.
Yeah.
But for regular daily decisions, for policy missions that the bank sends everywhere and the IMF gives loans, etc., is much lower requirement to make a decision. So actually, in practice, no country has veto, and almost every decision is made by very broad consensus, and that's the source of policy consensus that further on the states apply, because it had been made on the basis of long negotiations, discussion, very technical discussion sometimes, and actually no country has real veto power. So about the United States, one of the sayings is that, Madeleine Albright said that the United States is the indispensable nation. Well, in those organizations you realize that there are also indispensable partners. So people that I met, executive directors from the bank or the IMF, said more or less in these words, it's very difficult to do anything against the United States, but the United States cannot impose everything. They need broad support, they need negotiations, consensus. So I think it's very efficient in this sense.
So they need to pull the right